Hey, welcome! Today we're going super small, like microscopic, to check out one of nature's most important and honestly most underrated creations. I'm talking about the plant cell wall. It's this incredible, invisible architecture that literally builds our world in ways you probably never even thought about. So yeah, let's get right into it.
All right, to kick things off, I've got a question for you. Think about your favorite cotton shirt. And now think about a giant redwood tree. You know, one of those ancient ones that's been standing for centuries. What in the world do they have in common? I mean, one is super soft and comfy, and the other is just the very definition of massive strength. Seems impossible, right?
Well, the answer is hiding at the microscopic level. It's the plant cell wall. Yep, this amazing little structure is the secret hero behind both of those things, and that's exactly what we're going to unpack today. And believe me, calling it nature's architect isn't an exaggeration. This thing is a total powerhouse. It provides the hardcore structural strength that lets a tree shoot hundreds of feet into the sky, but at the same time, it gives it the flexibility to bend in the wind instead of just snapping. It is an absolute marvel of engineering. So, what's its job description exactly? Wow, it's way more than just a box for the cell. First off, it has to hold the cell's shape against some serious internal pressure from water. Think of it like an overinflated tire. It also has to be flexible enough to let the cell grow, and it acts like a scaffold, guiding how different cells develop into leaves or roots. Oh, and on top of all that, it's the first line of defense against nasty pathogens and stress. It's a total multitasking machine. Okay, so how does it do all of that? To figure that out, we gotta look at the blueprint, because here's the thing. The cell wall isn't just one solid slab. Nope. It's this really sophisticated, layered structure that's built in stages, and each layer has a very specific job. So you've basically got three main layers. First up is the middle lamella. Think of this as the superglue, or mortar, that holds all the individual cells together, side by side. Then you've got the primary wall. This is a thin, flexible layer that's built while the cell is young and still growing. And finally, for cells that need to be extra tough, like in wood, a thick, super rigid secondary wall gets built on the inside, kind of like adding reinforcements after the main construction is done. You know, probably the easiest way to wrap your head around all this is to think of the cell wall as a high-tech construction site. Seriously, it's got different materials, each with a super specific job. We're going to use this analogy to break down all the key players. All right, let's talk about the single most important material on this whole construction site. I mean, this is the absolute foundation of its strength. We're talking about an incredible fiber called cellulose. Okay, so sticking with our construction site idea, cellulose is the rebar. You know those steel rods you see in concrete? That's what gives it all its strength. Cellulose does the exact same thing for the plant cell wall. It's the main thing bearing all the tension and stress. So what is cellulose, chemically speaking? Well, it's just a long chain of sugar molecules, glucose, linked together. But here's where the magic happens. Thousands of these individual chains bundle themselves together to form these super strong cables called microfibrils. It's this bundling, this teamwork, that gives the cell wall its incredible tensile strength. It's way stronger than the sum of its parts. And just to give you an idea of how much of this stuff there is, get a load of this number, 90%. Just let that sink in, 90%. Any guesses what common, everyday thing is made of 90% pure cellulose?
It's a single cotton fiber. That's right. The soft cotton that makes up your t-shirt is almost pure cellulose. Isn't that wild? It just goes to show how the properties of this one molecule can create the materials that are all around us.
But, you know, rebar by itself doesn't do much, right? You need something to hold it all together. And in the cell wall, that job goes to this complex, kind of sticky web of other molecules called the matrix. So let's check that out. So the first component of this matrix is something called hemicellulose. In our construction analogy, if cellulose is the rebar, then hemicellulose is like the thin wires that workers use to tie all that rebar together into a strong, crisscrossing grid. Basically, hemicellulose latches onto those cellulose rebar cables and links them all up, creating this super tough network. This is absolutely key to the wall's overall strength. And it's not just useful for the plant. We actually use it to make paper stronger and even to produce biofuels. All right, next up we've got pectin. So if cellulose is our rebar and hemicellulose is the wire tying it together, pectin is like a hydrated gel that fills in the gaps. It surrounds everything, holds a lot of water, and helps the wall resist being squished.
So how does it do that? Well, as this quote points out, pectin molecules are loaded with negative charges. And because of that, they act like little magnets, grabbing onto positive ions and trapping a ton of water molecules. And what happens when you trap a lot of water? You get a gel, which is exactly why we use it to make jam.
But get this, not all pectin is created equal. There's a tiny chemical difference that changes everything. High methyloxy, or HM pectin, needs a lot of sugar and some acid to turn into a gel. That's your classic jam. But low methyloxy, or LM pectin, can gel with just a little bit of calcium, which is perfect for making those low sugar or sugar-free jams. A tiny, tiny chemical tweak with a huge impact on our food.
Okay, so we've got our rebar, our wires, and our gel filler. That's a pretty good structure. But to go from a flexible plant stem to a rock-solid piece of wood, you need one final, ultimate ingredient, the heavy-duty stuff, and that's lignin.
Lignin, this is the concrete in our construction project. It's this super complex rigid stuff that seeps into all the leftover spaces and just hardens everything up, especially in that secondary wall. It adds incredible strength against crushing forces, and it makes the wall waterproof. It's the final step that creates true woody toughness.
And if you want to see just how crucial lignin is, just look at what wood is actually made of. It can be up to 30% of the total weight. That's huge. That's what gives wood its hardness, what makes it resist rotting. I mean, to put it simply, no lignin, no trees. Period.
All right, so after that deep dive into the microscopic world, let's pull the camera back a bit. Let's see how all these tiny little components build the world that we see and use every single day. Because these aren't just names in a textbook, they are truly nature's gifts to us.
And this table really sums it all up beautifully. You've got cellulose, or rebar, giving us paper and clothes. You have hemicellulose, the wires, helping us make things like biofuels. Pectin, our gel, ends up in our jams and jellies. And lignin, the concrete, is at the forefront of new tech, like better biofuels and even biodegradable plastics. Every single part has a job in the plant, and we've found a valuable use for every single one.
And that really brings us to one last big idea. The plant cell wall is just a masterpiece of engineering. It's sustainable, it's renewable, and it's biodegradable. So as we're all searching for smarter, better ways to build our world, ways that don't harm the planet, maybe the biggest question we should be asking ourselves is, what else can we learn from nature's oldest and, you could say, wisest architect? Something to think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.